Jennifer Clarke, Eskew, Amazon best-selling author. Jennifer, really continued success. Update your fans what's going on with you, and then I want to go into more topics about to the true crime side. Your writing, we'll just see where we go.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Right now everything has been going great over the holidays. Happy New Year, by the way. Everything. It's been good. I am getting messages every day through either social media or email from readers, letting me know about how much they enjoyed the book, asking me if there's going to be a second book, or begging me to do a second book, which I am working on. They're also asking details about the personal, private stuff that I put in the book as part of the memoir, because they're wanting to know more. So that's kind of interesting, because I didn't think anybody would really care too much about my personal life, but they are asking those things, and it's just been exciting. The other thing I found with my audience, because I truly believed in the true crime genre and memoir genre of a woman, that it would be a primarily female reader base. What I have found is I'm about 50% male, 50% female, and that the age categories are running anywhere from about 20 is my youngest or so far, to about, well, I can tell you, 97. I have a 97-year-old reader, a big fan. I have an 87-year-old reader, a big fan. And so it's like, and they're just wildly crazy about the book and enjoying it. So it's like, okay, I wasn't expecting to reach across. But I think for the older readers, what I'm learning from them is that I did break out things as a female that they could only imagine and not even have the opportunity towards. And so they're very proud of that they see me, and I've never seen this glass ceiling feeling about myself, but they see that and they talk about that because they're just so excited that I did those things and I didn't let anybody stop me. So that's kind
No,
of,
I think that's exciting because you're right. You didn't let anyone stop you.
yeah,
And I think that your audience, because it's true crime, it's talking about the real life of an undercover,
right. And
uh, you know, uh, doing undercover as a woman and understanding the process and how it led you to becoming, undercover ATF and how
right,
you grew through the experience. And I think people like that. And I think male and female readers see that.
yeah. Well, that and I've had a lot of the retired troopers in Virginia and the retired special agents in Virginia have been reading, and they've gotten back to me, or I've seen where they've posted reviews that they've read the book, and they're telling me that I was spot on, that all of the things I talked about as far as the job and what I was doing, that they also did those things, and they recall those feelings that you had when things were happening, and they remember those events, and they're just like, you nailed it. You described what that job of being a trooper in uniform and what that job of being undercover was like, and you captured the feelings, the emotions that were tied in. I tell people when they're asking me about that, I said, look, I wanted to keep the raw humanity in it. I needed you to be, like I told you, and I've told the listening audience before, that ride along feeling that you were right there with me. When I wrote, I wanted the reader right there, really right there with me. So they felt like they were involved, and they could understand where certain feelings were coming from, where certain reactions were coming from, um, the intensity of the moment. And so far, that is the response I'm getting back from the readers, both people who've done law enforcement, people who've never ever wanted to do law enforcement, are telling me that that's what they're getting from reading the book. So that's been great. Being a top new release and a bestseller on Amazon, that's been awesome, because that's driving some sales too, which I'm appreciating, and I'm finding a new fan base, people that I had no clue about, and
Right. And
anyway,
and what they see in
yeah,
this is the truth to
yeah,
finally get in there. And how many people really get that opportunity to see what a police officer does every day, especially on the undercover side?
yeah. It's different, and and they've been asking about some of the undercover stories. I've recently met with one of the widows of a trooper who was killed, a trooper that I knew, that I talk about in chapter 3 of my book. Um, that was we had a good private luncheon, and because I wanted to present her with my book, and she was such a gracious lady. Uh, Emotional to a point, but also we were able to share a few laughs and to talk about him and how much he impressed me, 40 years ago when I was just getting my feet wet. In fact, here we are, January 2026, and I started my law enforcement career in January of 1986. So truly
Wow.
40 years ago, and that's been it's been interesting because to me it seems like yesterday sometimes, and then I also know it's been 40 years ago.
So tell me how you just kind of, you know, lasted 40 years in the same job. Not the same job, a lot of different experiences, but
A lot
same
of different experiences,
profession.
but staying in law enforcement, I truly took to heart and knew that I wanted to help people, to protect, to serve, to do things, to give back into my community. And I know some people say, "Oh, that's hokey." I did. I really wanted to do that. I still enjoy doing that. I still work with different things in order to be helping out people. Uh, like I'm very big with the 9/11, with the widows and the families there, to making sure that they're being taken care of from the law enforcement end to the people we've lost, particularly to the 9/11 related health issues with mostly cancers and lung issues. Um, and I feel like somebody needs to be stepping up and speaking out for them because they've been through enough. But there's other things. I mean, I've always donated to like Salvation Army. That's been a thing for me, and I get that from my parents. So with it, to stay in the field, it was that, but it was also that adventure, that adrenaline driven, uh, something that was always different. I wasn't cut out for sitting behind a desk and working on a project all day long. In fact, writing for me, people are always asking, "How do you sit down and write?" And I'll say, "I sit in my recliner, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm writing stories because it's easy for me." And I have the television on, and it's usually, well, it's not Law and Order, but it's usually something like Rockford Files, an old rerun. Uh, it's just having that noise in the background. It's having something going on. But I also get up and go take a walk at 2 o'clock in the morning too, just to get outside and just get fresh air and think about what I'm going to write next. And I want to make sure that I capture the emotion and that I get the verbiage right of what went on in that time period, and what was being said and what I was thinking and what was happening. And I want people to know that danger or um, sometimes the insults that I got too, because people are not always nice to law enforcement when they know you're law enforcement. So some of that too, and it's just a thing to carry it on, to be doing it, and I enjoyed it. And so now where I'm teaching, that's also been fun to go back and teach these young people that are just getting into law enforcement at the academy. That's
Yeah.
a lot of fun, a lot of
And
joy.
so what do you see in the new law enforcement? What are we seeing in, I guess, younger people today to decide to choose this profession?
I tell you what, they're sharp. Don't underestimate our young people. They are very sharp, and they have a whole different set of skills that I didn't. I had to learn computers on the job, and I had to learn, all of these technical things that came along. Smartphones came along much later in my career. We were old point and shoot cameras, and then we were 35 millimeter film cameras. So they've got all of that technology. They totally understand it. We're over there teaching them some of it, and they know. They're very sharp with that. But they're also thinking outside the box on new ways to find evidence, to capture evidence that perhaps we weren't into at the time. They're very science driven when it comes to things like DNA and blood evidence. They're very aware of those things and understand that everything has to be pristine. Things that I wish we had known in the 80s and 90s that it took a while to become that. We're
Do
also
you do you
seeing,
do you feel? I'm
yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
no,
Go ahead. But at some point came into my mind.
yeah,
We watch these shows. Like I was really into a few new police type dramas, types of things that are out now on Peacock and different things. And they see the dedication to the job where you're not working 8 hours, you're working 20 hours
yeah,
sometimes. You're working so many hours. And it seems like that you guys get addicted to the job to the level that you work so much for the pay where people look at you and say, "Are you kidding me?" Even if you were in the FBI, CIA, wherever, whatever types of investigation organization you're part of. What do you think makes that dedication in certain jobs, that the higher level paying positions or the higher level responsibilities in law enforcement?
okay. There's that old saying of if you love the work you're doing, then you'll never work a day in your life. I'd like to tell you that. Now, I love the work I was doing, and I loved catching criminals, which meant figuring out the crimes, figuring out ways to get into them and to get the evidence I needed in order to be able to make the arrest and to make that arrest go through the whole process of the court system so that justice was served for the victims. I loved that investigative part of it. I liked working with all of the different people, my resources, people from the laboratory, people from other law enforcement agencies. I like that part of it as well. Um, those things become sort of addictive. You get really hung up. You get really into the spin and the adrenaline and the what's happening right then. And sometimes you just can't say, "Well, oh, I'm sorry, it's 10 minutes to 5. Let me start cleaning up my desk and turning off my computer for the night. I've got to go. Got to get home." Didn't work that way in law enforcement, and that's difficult because in law enforcement, if you can't go home at the end of the day or be there first thing in the morning because you're still working, it's finding that life balance is a little bit tough. I'm hoping that these young people that we're giving them some skills on that as well in the academies to definitely get that life balance. It's not just hitting the gym. It's not just having the downtime and social, with somebody besides other cops. It is making sure you're looking after your families and that you're doing the things you need to do with them. And do take your time off. Don't be running and, as we used to call it, running and gunning. Don't be running and gunning, 20 hours a day, 5, 7 days a week. Slow down. It's going to be okay. We'll catch them the next day. You got to get your rest. You got to look out for yourself. Um, I am seeing that we are getting a lot more females coming through. I am seeing a lot more African American young people coming through, particularly females, which is great. I'm loving seeing a lot more females coming through, and these are highly qualified people. They are doing great on the physical fitness end of and demands. Um, they're sharp in the classrooms with what's happening. You'll find out that their backgrounds, they've not only got a great education behind them, some of them have experience already in local law enforcement. Uh, they have military backgrounds, and with a lot of the young people we're meeting that are now students, uh, Hispanic, got a lot of Hispanic students, and quite a few of them are bringing second language skills in with them, which is always great. You need that. I was never good with the second language. I wish I was, but I never picked up on it, anything else. Um, I'm also seeing a lot of Asian American uh, applicants that have come in,
Wow.
and so you're not seeing, as I tell people, when I went through law enforcement and when I was around like different academy classes and different things, you are not seeing where it's a class of say 50 and 48 are white male, and then the other two are perhaps a female, perhaps an African American. Um, you're not seeing a class like that. I am seeing classes now in which maybe we have 38 and 10 of them are females.
Oh, well.
And that's just one of those things, and it's like this is good. This is really good. And it's that way with a lot of different agencies that are hiring now. Plus, I'm also meeting a lot of females who have moved up in the ranks with their law enforcement agencies. They've been on the job 20, 25, even 30, 35 years. They've moved into chief of police, captains, lieutenants, sergeants. And when you ask the people that work with them and how things are, they'll tell you, what a great leader they've got. And they're not worried about that person being female or anything else. They're doing great work. I see a lot of good things coming from this new wave of young people coming into law enforcement because they've been through a different time period than what we grew up in, or at least what I grew up in. So it's
interesting. Now, do you feel on TV and movies they really depict law enforcement correctly?
Some shows do. Some shows are very hokey.
Which ones do you think are hokey?
I'm not great at memorizing the titles of the ones that are hokey because I won't watch them after.
No, you need to reach out to them and specifically say you need me to be on your consulting team.
I watched one here a while back. It was like LA something, and it was 3 or 4 females on this thing, and it was just absolutely what a joke. I don't think it made it more than a season, but I may have, but it was horrible. It just was. I'm thinking, do you mean this is supposed to be a comedy, right? Because it wasn't supposed to be a comedy, but it was really poorly. It portrayed females in law enforcement poorly.
So you're gonna have to watch some of these more.
It portrayed the whole law enforcement world poorly. It wanted to be action adventure, and that's what it was. Action adventure, and we should think that these female LA detectives were superhuman, and it's like, no, you're not. And why not just do it normal? I always thought that Law and Order did a pretty good job with their characters. Now, sometimes they get way off base with some of the writing and the storylines. But for the most part, they really did portray the officers the right way over the years. I always liked The Closer and Major Crimes. And that made Kira Sedgwick was the closer. It actually did pretty good on most aspects and everything, but she was, they always showed her with the interviewing and the things like that. But they showed her personal life being a complete cluster. She had a lot of things going on, and at the same time, her law enforcement life, she was really good with what she did. But going back home and having a personal life kind of reminded me of sometimes of just, okay, well, that's not that good. Maybe I should just go back to work for the day because that's where I do really well. And I think I see that.
So Law and Order, they do a good job?
I think they do. Watching it, they've done well. I have enjoyed certain movies that came out. I love the way The Departed was done. I think The Departed was written very well, and it was acted very well. Of course, they had some top named actors in that. But it was very cool how they showed the whole undercover and how they had people that were moles within the law enforcement agency and how the dangers were there. Some of the crazy stuff that went on was, a little off the bit.
Right.
Hightown. I've been watching Hightown. I don't know who's got that. Is that a Showtime? I don't think it's HBO. It's maybe Showtime. But Hightown is kind of different. That is Rhode Island, and also off the coast there. I don't know that whole area. Or Massachusetts, maybe. I'm not. Anyway, they show that whole area there and the drugs coming in and the people partying and everything that's going on. And there's that underworld of organized crime, but then there's the law enforcement. Maybe showing all that the police are all using a lot of alcohol and a lot of drugs. It's like that maybe is a little over the top. But
yeah. What have you seen Mayor of Kingstown?
I have not gotten to watch that yet, and it's like one of my shows I want to watch.
Because I want to know if it's really true about the prisons and also the police, how corrupt some police are.
I think there's definitely corruption in law enforcement, without a doubt. I know, I don't want to say the word think, I know there's corruption within law enforcement. I worked quite a bit of that in my career. I had a really big case back. We started it in 2006, and it progressed through 2008 with my involvement with it. We took off a couple of small town chiefs of police back then. We had a sergeant within the law enforcement. We had a lieutenant back in the law enforcement time that were also arrested. We had a couple of deputies that were involved from the sheriff's departments that we caught up in that. We called it Operation Leaky Shield at the time. And it started with myself and a DEA agent, Brian. He just retired recently. And we also, once we realized what we had, we went down the hallway to knock on the FBI door and got an FBI agent by the name of Tom. He is now retired as well. And said, Tom, we're in a little bit deep. It's not just guns and drugs and stolen guns and stolen drugs, but it's all being stolen from law enforcement and out of the evidence room. And it's being taken off of traffic stops on drug traffickers, and there are convicted felons involved in this, and there are people who are supposedly informants, but they are working with these corrupt cops. And it's not just one little small town, it's numerous little small towns, and these guys are all friends and they socialize together, and there are underage females involved. And we've got a problem, like a huge problem, and we need to be looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
We started Operation Leaky Shield, and we brought down quite a few people at that time. Aspects of that continued on through my ATF office in Bristol, and they were able to take off chief of police out in Pennington Gap, another chief of police that was in Marion, Virginia. In fact, they got the one in Marion, Virginia. His former girlfriend / girlfriend, not sure what to call her, she got busted. We had known that she was a perfect target. Someone finally was able to arrest her for drugs, and she immediately gave up her sort of pseudo boyfriend, chief of police, for his drug use and things he was doing. She put a video camera in her house for us. It was just a nice little radio, put it there in the house. And he sat down at a kitchen table right in front of that camera, just like you would do in front of your iPad or your phone, and was sitting there chopping up the pills, cutting them up, and snorting the lines and doing them on the kitchen table and talking to her about drugs. And they were able to arrest him and get him out of the job as well.
Wow. Did anyone ever try to make you corrupt? Come with you with something that could have led to corruption? No.
But I think that people, once they met me or knew me, they realized that wasn't happening. I wasn't going to the other side. I had no interest in using drugs. I never did. But also I had no interest in whatever they had because they didn't have enough money. There's never enough money. What are you going to give me? $1 billion so I can disappear? Because,
you're going to get caught. And you've seen most of the time corruption.
They're going to prison. And I'm not going to give up my whole career, everything that my parents raised me to be, that my family and friends and community expected me to be. I'm going to give up all of that because you're going to give me a few $1,000s? No, that's not happening. I don't need your money. The bank will loan me what I need.
And never cartels have come to you and saying let's cut a deal or not. You're undercover, so you didn't have to worry about that.
No. I mean, and like I said, I never got close enough to like the cartel people, but the folks who I did know or were in the business.
Well, it's scary to know that there is that kind of corruption, and how do you stop it? I don't know. There's no way, especially to do that.
It's a constant battle. It's a constant battle, and it's something you got to stand vigilant against, and you've got to be aware. And when the information comes to light, it can't be shrugged off, because I kind of saw some of that earlier in law enforcement, and I did see some people who were willing to ignore what they saw, and it's like, that can't be. They can't be doing that. I know we went out on it's supposed to be a knock and talk. We were going to go and try to find somebody. So we go over to this house with this local police officer. He was a detective at the time, because he knows right where we can find him.
Right.
So we pull up. I'm with ATF at the time. The local guy goes up. He knocks on the door. No answer. Does it a couple more times, no answer. Then he turns the doorknob. Doesn't say, "Hey, police, are you okay? Are you home? I mean, it's me. I'm out here." He doesn't say anything like that when he opens the door. He just walks into the house.
Oh my
Fortunately,
gosh.
the other agent I was with, because I'm standing there like, "Whoa, what is he doing?" And about that time, the agent that I'm with, he's like, "Hey, get out here. Come back outside. You can't go in there. You don't have a right to be in there." Well, I'm just looking around to see if I can find him. He goes, "If he was home, he'd have heard you by now. He's not here." And it's like, get out of his house. We don't have a right to be in there. You don't have a right to be in there. I mean, if he had opened that door and walked in there and found a kilo of cocaine sitting on the table,
Right.
you can't do that. You just can't walk into
No.
a house. That's where the Fourth Amendment comes in. But it's that kind of incompetence. Because I don't think he was corrupt. I just think it was just
Yeah.
incompetence, kind of a bumbling fool. It's like, you can't do that. If we had thought that the guy was hurt or injured, maybe, but we were just stopping by
Oh.
to talk to him, maybe see if the guy wanted to work for us. You got to have
Right.
you got to have a little introduction, and it's like, you can't be walking around through his house. You can't be searching his house.
No. All right. So go to JenniferClarkeSkew.com. You're looking for more reviews for people who've read
Yes.
the book.
Yes, Goodreads, or if you get it from Amazon, then that's great. If you find my book out at Amazon and you want to go, then please go to Goodreads and give me a review. The name, Jennifer Clarke Eskew. If you hit that.com, that's me. If you reach out to me on the social media sites that I'm on, whether it's Facebook or TikTok, let's see, I'm on YouTube, anything like that, I will try to answer your questions. If you have something that's great, I'll do my best to answer you.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks again.